So, of course, his birth, God is very accurate and absolute. It's going to happen on a significant holy day of Israel. So the question is, which one? It begins in the springtime. The first feast is Passover. The age begins with Passover, Messiah on the cross, and it ends with Tabernacles, when God will come down and tabernacle. And so we can do a whole thing on this, but the whole age is that. So when would he be born prophetically? It's not going to be in the autumn. That's the second coming. Got to be in the spring again. It all points back to the spring, and it points back to this month called Nissan, which means the beginning. The month means the beginning. That's what it means. That's when it all begins. So, and everything he does in order.
Yes,
Palm Sunday, he does it according to those days. So if you count back, you got resurrection in the Nissan, you got Passover 15th of Nissan, you got Palm Sunday 10th of Nissan. You only have a few more days from the beginning that this has got to happen. So it's narrowing it down now to the very first days of Nissan. And so now the next clue. Every time he fulfills a holy day, he doesn't just fulfill the time, the theme of that day, he fulfills it. For instance, Passover, he dies as the Passover lamb. First fruits, he rises. So everything has to do with that. Is there any day on the Hebrew calendar that would match up with birth, new beginning, new everything? There is one day, and it happens to be in Nisan. And the one day is Nisan 1, which is the very beginning of the Hebrew year, the very day that begins everything. And this is the day that it's the real New Year, though most Jewish people think Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah, Rosh Hashanah.
It's not. The real New Year of God is Nisan 1. Now the thing about Nisan 1 is you don't have to be in Jerusalem. There's no command to be in Jerusalem, yet it's a holy day, so Joseph could be there at that time. And think about this. It's the day that begins the calendar. It changes the calendar. The old calendar is gone. The new calendar begins. What does Messiah's birth do when he comes to this world? He changes the calendar. The whole calendar is changed BC AD, and there's one day in the Hebrew calendar that matches that, and that's Nisan 1. It's the calendar changer. But now we're going to even go deeper. We're going to go to the moon now. Okay, we go for the moon. But this is not, and I want to tell you, as we're doing this, there's all sorts of things that touch on a million other things. So it's the mystery of the moon. And that is, the Hebrew calendar is based on the moon, and that's where we get the word month. So the moon. And so when Jesus died, people don't realize this, he died at the full moon. When he died, it was a full moon. Why? Every Hebrew month begins with a new moon, starts. It reaches its peak at the full moon. That's what it's called. The month is in its fullness. That's right in the middle. Jesus died on the Nisan 14-15, the middle, that's Passover. That's when the moon had to be full that day, had to be full. And as a symbol, Nisan means the beginning. It's the month that means the beginning. The full moon means it's the fulfillment of this beginning, this first coming. It's at the fullness of it. So his whole life is leading up to this fullness, this moon. And so when would his life begin? If it fulfills at the full moon of Nisan, means the month of the beginning, first coming, it would begin on the new moon of Nisan, the very beginning of it, and that's Nisan 1. So his whole month, there's a moon mystery behind this whole thing too. Every Hebrew calendar, every year. But I want to go now to the stars. We went to the moon, let's go to the stars. And to do the stars, we have to go to the people who were priests, but not Jewish priests, of the religion called Zoroastrianism, which we know as the Magus or the Magi. The strange Magi, or in Hebrew, the Magim.
So they were astrologists.
Yes, let's get into that. Yeah, about astrology. We'll get it. Yeah.
They saw him. They come into the Lord in the star.
They did, and you know that there's actually a prophecy about the Magi. People don't really, in the Old Testament. Isaiah 60 says, "Arise and shine, your light has come." And then it says, "Nations will come, kings will come." And then it says, "A herd of camels will cover your land, but they will come bearing gold and frankincense." That's Isaiah 60. It actually prophesies the Magi. They will come with gold and frankincense, camels,
how did I ever miss
gold and frankincense. It's God. There's so much in there. You read it, and it's like, I think only God just puts it in there. I don't know. And it says gold and frankincense, and they'll come praising the Lord. That's the Magi. So the word's given that they're going to come, and then you find in Matthew it says Yeshua was born in Bethlehem, and Magi from the east came to Jerusalem, saying, "Where is he who was born King of the Jews? We saw his star in the east, and we came to worship him." Here we have now the clue of the Magi. The Magi that were priests, and as you said, astrologers. Now we know astrology is wrong, bad, have nothing to do with it. No Christian has any business. But God is sovereign, and that's what they know. They're looking in the stars. Back then, astrology and astronomy were basically the same. They believed there were signs, but God is able to speak. So the thing is that, what is this star? Now, there's people who've said it's some conjunction. Well, the problem is no natural star is able to move across the thing. I mean, it can move in the heavens with everything, but it can't move and guide you to a place. So it is a supernatural thing. But what's happening is, well, what do we know about this star? That they're led to a manger. And first of all, say something else, and you probably all know it, but this is a misconception. You see the nativity scenes, and you see the Magi there. The Magi were never there. They were never there. The Magi were 2 years later. Now, do we have a clue? When did this happen? Well, Herod's alive, and he says 2 years, kill them, according to when they saw the star. So, Herod, do we know when he died? Herod died 4 BC. So right away, we know that Jesus was born BC. He wasn't born on the 0. We know that's a mistake. It's really not the year, whatever it is, it's 2012, it's really 2016, if you go, or more than that. But he had to be born BC because Herod died BC. So then it's 2 years before. So that's pointing us to 6 BC with the Magi seeing something. Now, here's another clue here in the mystery. If the Magi just saw a star in the sky, how would they know that this is King of the Jews? I mean, how would they put a star, a star appears, but how do you know King of the Jews? One interesting thing is that, remember, there was the prophet Daniel, and he went to Babylon. The Bible says that he became the head of the wise men of Persia. The wise men of Persia were the Magi. So actually, Daniel is the one who actually gives the time of Messiah's coming. He gives that countdown. So it's possible he could have passed down that went to the Magi the time around when he came. They still wouldn't know when he's born, but it would say when he's going to Jerusalem. They still wouldn't, but they could already be saying, okay, something may happen soon. But how do they know? By looking at a star, how do you get King of the Jews? And here's a thing, and remember, it's not about astrology is wrong, but God's able to speak the language to speak to them. Yes. And this is the thing, around in 6 BC, same time, we know there was something that happened. Anyone into the stars would have seen it. There was a convergence of Jupiter, Saturn, Venus, Mars, all converging to one part of the sky. And there was also something called a double occultation. But anyway, there's all these things happening. But they said, where is the King of the Jews? They were astrologers. In the language of the stars, they thought it was a star, but it was a wandering star, it was a planet. One star was linked to the king, and that was Jupiter. When you saw that, that was the king star, or it was the planet. But then what does that do? How do you get Jews? They say, where's the king? There's an ancient astronomer, a Greek, who says this in a book called Tetrabibla. Says there was, in the land of Judea, was linked to the constellation in the ancient world to Aries, the ram. That the ancient world, when they saw that, they said Judea. So why is that significant? What happened in 6 BC is that all these things converge, and Jupiter, it comes in the picture big time. Things are happening with Jupiter, and they all come to the place that's linked to Judea in the sky. It's all linked to this thing, Aries. So they would look at this and say, king, they would say Jew, and here's the star, something happens divine. So they would come from that a King of the Jews has been born, who is somebody beyond anything we've known. So they would come by that, just by that, be able to say, where is he who was born King of the Jews? We saw his star in the east. And modern astronomers have identified that such a conjunction happens only once every 6,000 years. So here it happens. With this, they come. When did this convergence happen? And again, it's not about the Magi, it's about that God is able to lead anyone who's seeking him. Yeah. But when did this happen? It happened in 6 BC, when? In the springtime. Again, in the springtime. But now the mystery gets bigger. Okay, now hold on. Now it's okay if you get or you don't get. But here's the thing. Here's another real clue in the Bible, big one. Luke 1. It says, in the days of Herod, king of Judea, there was a priest named Zacharias of the division of Abijah. And he had a wife, the daughters of Aaron, her name was Elizabeth. It happened while he was performing his priestly service before God in the appointed order of division. According to his custom, he was chosen by lot, and he went in to minister. Now, we got a clue right there. This is the birth of John. His father is a priest. He's a Kohanim from Aaron. And he goes to minister. Now, what we know right there is there was a set time when the priests would go in, and they were divided up into courses. His course was Abijah. So if we can find out when Abijah's course was, we've got it. You know, we've nailed it. If you can find out, because you can, okay, he was there. Then 6 months later comes the comes the conception of Jesus. You got the whole thing. But the trick is, how can you find?
Now, there's a calendar somewhere.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
you think there is one on
There is
Earth?
one.
There is one.
Yeah, there is one. First of all, in First Chronicles 24, we read about the divisions of the priests. So we now know the order of when Abijah was in there. He was number 8. He was the 8th. It would go by weeks. 1 week, 2 week. He would be the 8th week in order. They'd rotate. They had 24 altogether. So just know there you got 8. But you got to know. But the key is when does it begin? Because we can't tell when this happened until we know he's number 8. But we can't tell until we know when he began. Okay. The answer here, the clue comes from the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Dead Sea Scrolls, which, by the way, were only discovered by this Arab shepherd who threw a stone into the cave, and it smashed these pottery, and comes the greatest find of the oldest Bible ever in history. Just at the same time when Israel's coming back as a nation, God restores this book. The Dead Sea Scrolls. Okay, here is the thing. There is a writing in one of the scrolls, actually, that contains a calendar of the priestly courses. Okay, in the Dead Sea Scrolls. So this is 2,000 years waiting to uncover. And so the thing is, now the key here is that this calendar goes for a few years before it repeats again. It's not a 1 year. It's not the same every year. So we gotta narrow down when exactly, what year was. If you can get any priest, whenever this order was on this date, you can nail down the rest of them. Okay, that is the key. So here's the thing. They give a mystery, and this is going to sound like Indiana Jones.
Okay.
Yes.
And you don't have to get it, and it doesn't matter. We're not going to. But they give it. They said they give a date of when the calendar began, and here's what it is. But you're not going to get. It's okay, but it sounds like this is Hollywood. In the Dead Sea Scroll, it says, when the sun displays itself from the east and shines in the center of the sky at the base of the vault from evening to morning on the 4th day of the week of the sons of Gamul, the course of Gamul. In the first month, it's the first year. You don't have to get any of it, but let me tell you what it's saying. It's saying that the priestly calendar begins at the equinox, the spring equinox, and on a Wednesday, the 4th day of the equinox. Okay, so that's all we have to get. Then the Dead Sea Scroll gives you a few dates, and one of those dates matches this of when this would have been at the time we're talking about. And so but before I give you because it's going to be the nail of this, there's one other thing of it, and that is, there is another ancient Hebrew writing that confirms that they're giving you the right date, and that's the Talmud, because the Talmud says, here's the clue. Talmud writings of the rabbis say the Temple of Jerusalem was destroyed in 70 AD. It was destroyed on a Sunday, they said, and they give you the name of the priests, the course, who were in that week. So just by that, you've got it. And the thing is, so the question is, so if you take that and all you do is wind it back to the time of Jesus. Or take the other one by the Dead Sea Scrolls, which is before Jesus' birth, and wind it forward and see if they met. The first thing is they match. The Dead Sea Scroll date and the Talmud match. So we got it. Okay? So now you have to find is, when did this date appear? When was Abijah ministering at this time? And the ultimate thing is, when you do this, if you work it all together, when does the birth of Messiah take place according to it? Ready? In the month of Nisan. Late March, early April, 6 BC, the priestly calendar leads us to a very specific time and a date. It leads us to March 20th, 6 BC, and if you take the calendar of the priests in the desert, it leads us to the same date as the Talmud does, which happens on the Hebrew calendar is Nisan 1, the day of the beginning of all things, the day that we said he would be born. Now, one other thing here. There's a thing here that there was a early church. We went from there. Now we're going to go into the hidden vaults of the Vatican. Okay, and in there is a writing of a church father called Hippolytus. And what he did is they use him and they say, Hippolytus, he's the one who gave us December 25th. He told us in the early days it's the 25th of December. But in one of you look at the writings, it's been censored because in one of the writings there it says it's like they put that in. You look at his writing, he says in the same thing, no, Messiah was born in the month of Nisan. This is an early church writing which was censored. There's even a document in the Vatican Church. This is not, crazy stuff. It's there, which gives a document which gives Nisan as the date of Messiah's birth. But now I want to give you one more. It's going to bring it home, okay? One more, okay? what is the, if you say, what is the most exact shadow of, in the Old Testament, of the birth or incarnation of Messiah? What would you say? And it's the tabernacle, because it's God tabernacling with us. In fact, when you read John, the beginning of the Gospel of John, the Word became flesh, that's the incarnation, and tabernacled among us. The word in Greek refers to the tabernacle of Israel. So he set up his tent. He came there and set up his tent. So the thing is, so here it is, the Bible speaks about the tent, tabernacle, as being a sign of being in the flesh, being incarnation. So here the question is there a clue? And the last piece is going to be in the Bible itself. I can't believe I missed this. I can't believe most. The Bible is giving you the clue. The tabernacle is the symbol of God dwelling with us. So here it is. Could it have a clue? The first thing to know, when was the tabernacle built? Right after they went to Sinai, Mount Sinai, all that stuff. God says built a tent. They start building the tent. Now, how long does it take for a child to be from conception to birth? How long? 9 months, slightly less, 9 months. How long was it for the tabernacle from conception to finishing? 9 months. 9 months. The same. Here it is, the same thing. It's right there. And so then the final thing is the Bible actually gives the date. We can find out when the tabernacle was finished. If we can find the date the tabernacle is finished, you've got it again.
Oh.
So now here it is. So where is it? There's a scripture. The scripture is Exodus 40. 1 and 2, which says, "You shall raise up the tent of the tabernacle of the congregation. You'll put it there, the Ark of the Testimony, when?" Here it is in the original. The answer is, "B'yom hachodesh harishon be'achad lachodesh." That's the answer. But
Okay, thanks.
I gotta catch the
Please,
plane. I gotta catch the
Rabbi.
plane here.
Amen.
Now the translation.
The translation, here it is. In the first month, Nissan, on the first day of that month, Nissan 1. The exact day from the beginning. Everything points. The beginning on Nissan 1, springtime, he was born. And this is everything. I mean, from the priests of the Magi to the priestly calendar, to the Bible itself. All the Word became flesh and tabernacled. It's all there. It was 9 months up until the day, Nissan 1, when he would be born. From the censored writing of the church, it's all there. And why is it important that he would be born in this way? First of all, the first thing is, it's the day that everything becomes new. Everything is new, and everything else becomes old. And what's it saying? When Messiah's presence comes, everything before is old. Everything now is new. And the power of Messiah's presence is the power to make everything new.
Yes.
And the power to make everything old. That's when we're born again. When we're born again, that's when Nissan, no matter what day it is, it becomes Nissan 1.
Right.
Becomes springtime, becomes the beginning.
Yes.
But not only once, we need him all the time. Whenever we receive his presence, everything becomes new. Everything becomes, that's the power of God. The more we dwell in his presence, it says we walk in the newness of life. And the other thing is the power of Messiah coming, he changes the calendars. Everything becomes BC AD. So before we knew him, all BC, we know him AD, but every moment we receive him again, every time we receive him in our lowest points, it becomes BC, it's now AD. It's always day one for the people of God. If we dwell in his presence, it's day one, new chances, second chance, everything is new. Even the new covenant itself, we think new covenant, well, it means it's newer than the old. That's not what it means. It means the covenant of newness. It never gets old. It doesn't matter. We might get old, but if we stay right in there, we never get old. The new covenant is always new. He's the God of second chances. New. And one other thing, just here, let's link it to the second coming. Let's link it to real now. You notice the first coming, for this to happen, everything had to be in an exact place. Everything had to happen exactly. Mary had to meet Joseph. They had to fall in love, and their parents had to fall in love, and their parents had to fall in love. And every one slight change, and the whole thing falls apart. Everything had to be, even the good, the bad, the problems, everything had to be worked perfectly for this to happen at the exact date. That's the first coming. Same with the second coming. Everything in this world is working exactly to bring about the second coming. Even our problems, even every life is working together. Israel, every single thing that's happening is working together. Just as the first coming was exact, the second coming will be exact and on time. And everything, including the problems, including the delays, including all the hardships, is all going to work together, not only for good, but for his coming. We are in the mystery now of the second coming, but it's going to be just as perfect as the first.